Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into a really fascinating book, Florence Scovel Shinn's The Game of Life and How to Play It. It's from 1925. But wow, its ideas still resonate.
Oh, absolutely. It's influenced so many people, folks like Louise Hay, Norman Vincent Peale. It really laid some groundwork for modern self-help thinking.
Exactly. And this deep dive is really for, the learner in all of us. Someone who wants to grasp these big ideas quickly, get those aha moments without wading through dense text.
Yeah, we're aiming to unpack Shinn's core concepts, how our thoughts, our words, our imagination basically shape everything around us. A bit of a shortcut to understanding these principles.
Right. So, the mission today, explore this idea that life is a game governed by spiritual laws, not just random chance or struggle. We'll be pulling directly from Shinn's work. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. Shinn starts right off with this fundamental law. Life is about giving and receiving. You know the one, whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
A classic, but she applies it very broadly, doesn't she? Not just actions, but thoughts.
Mm-hmm. It's the energy, the thoughts, the words, what you're putting out there, that's the sowing.
And a huge part of that sowing is our imagination. She calls it the imaging faculty.
Yes, she quotes Proverbs. Keep thy heart or imagination with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Basically, what you vividly imagine, you tend to create externally.
It sounds like our imagination is way more powerful than just daydreaming.
Oh, absolutely. Think about her example of the man who became obsessed with a rare disease. He wasn't just worried, he immersed himself in it, pictured it. It shows how fear can be creative, but in a negative way. It's not just predicting something bad, it can actively draw it in.
Wow. Okay, so understanding how this works is key. Shinn breaks down the mind into three parts.
Right. First, there's the subconscious. Think of it as pure power, like electricity or steam. It's incredibly powerful, but it has no direction of its own.
So it just executes commands.
Exactly. It takes its orders from our deep feelings or very clear mental images. It doesn't judge, it just acts. It's like the engine room.
There's a story about that, isn't there? A childhood game.
Yeah, the girl who used to play Widow, she dressed up, really felt the part. And that strong image impressed on her subconscious as a child unfortunately played out later in her life. It shows how literal the subconscious is.
That's sobering. Okay, what's the second part? The conscious mind.
Right, the conscious mind. Shinn sometimes calls it the mortal or carnal mind. This is our everyday thinking mind. It's the part that sees limitations, problems, lack, sickness, death. All the stuff we perceive in the physical world.
And its job is, well, what does it do in this game?
Its main function here is observing the world, but the problem is it often focuses on the negative, the limitations, and then it impresses those ideas onto the subconscious.
So it can be the source of the negative programming, feeding fear to the engine room.
Precisely. It takes its fears, its doubts about what's possible, and transmits them down, and the subconscious just gets to work making them real.
Okay. Then the third part sounds more hopeful. The superconscious mind.
Yes, the superconscious, or the God mind, as she puts it. This is like our connection to the divine, the realm of perfect ideas. It holds the perfect pattern or divine design for each of us.
The divine design, like our true potential, our destiny.
Exactly. You know that feeling sometimes, that glimpse of an amazing possibility that feels almost too good to be true, like an unattainable ideal? Shinn says that's often a flash from the superconscious showing you your actual destiny.
So those big dreams might actually be messages about where we're supposed to go.
That's the idea. Our conscious mind might dismiss them because they seem unrealistic based on current circumstances, but the superconscious holds the blueprint for our highest good.
This ties into her idea of divine selection versus just forcing things with willpower, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. There's the story of the woman who was absolutely set on marrying a particular man, A.B. She was trying to force it.
Right.
Shinn advised her to let go of that specific outcome and instead affirm that she wanted the divine selection, the right person for her, whoever that might be.
Then what happened?
Well, interestingly, her strong feelings for A.B. just sort of faded. And pretty soon after, she met someone else who was a much better match. It's about aligning with the bigger picture, trusting that infinite intelligence knows better than our limited conscious desires.
Surrendering the how and trusting the what.
Kind of, yeah. Trusting that when you align with your highest good, the right things, People, situations, opportunities are drawn to you, like seeking the kingdom within first.
Okay, let's shift to the power of words. Shinn is really strong on this. By your words ye are justified, and by your words ye are condemned. That sounds pretty absolute.
It does. She truly believed words have this vibrational creative power. Idle words aren't really idle. They set things in motion.
Can you give an example? She had some stark ones.
Oh, yeah. The woman who kept joking, maybe complaining, oh, I wish I lived in a trunk. Just expressing a feeling of being cramped or wanting simplicity, maybe. And she ended up in a living situation that was incredibly small and limiting. The subconscious doesn't get jokes, apparently.
Wow. It takes things very literally. But this works both ways, right? Positive words create positive outcomes.
Absolutely. It's a universal law. Lack can be transformed into abundance through the same mechanism. Remember the story of the woman with just $8?
Yes, tell us about that one.
She was feeling pretty hopeless. Shinn told her to bless the money she had, affirm abundance, act as if she had plenty, and critically follow her intuition, her hunch.
And her hunch led her somewhere unexpected.
Right. It led her to take a trip, which seemed counterintuitive given her lack of funds. But she followed it, acted in faith, kept affirming, and ended up meeting an old family friend who gave her a substantial amount of money, completely out of the blue.
So the affirmation plus the action, based on intuition.
Exactly. It shows the combination. Aligning your words and thoughts with abundance, and then taking inspired action.
Shinn also emphasizes just asking. Ask, and it shall be given you.
Yes, the very act of desiring something sets energy in motion. It's a demand on the universe, whether you speak it aloud or not. She even tells a story about wanting a specific type of rose tree.
And getting it, even though the person sending a gift intended something else.
Exactly. Her friend planned to send lilies, but somehow the rose tree arrived instead. The universe, or infinite intelligence, responded to her underlying desire.
So if the power is there, and asking sets things in motion, what stops us? Why don't we always get what we desire?
Two main things, according to Shinn: doubt and fear. They're the roadblocks. They neutralize the power of our positive thoughts and words.
And fear is, what do you call it, inverted faith.
Yeah. It's basically faith, but placed in a negative outcome, believing that the bad thing will happen instead of believing the good thing can happen.
How do we tackle that? Fear can feel so real, so ingrained.
It takes conscious effort. Shinn mentions a brilliant man she knew who literally trained himself out of worry. He just kept repeating, why worry? It will probably never happen.
He just reprogrammed himself.
Essentially, yes. He drilled it in until he developed this deep conviction that only good could come into his life, that worry was pointless. We have to consciously, actively substitute faith for fear.
And she talks about actively clearing out the old stuff, right? Smashing negative records in the subconscious.
Using spoken words, affirmations, decrees. You actively work to dismantle those old limiting beliefs about lack or sickness or failure. And then you build new records, consciously affirming health, wealth, love, perfect self-expression.
So it's like weeding a garden and planting new seeds,
Yeah.
an ongoing process. Let's talk more about prosperity. Shinn states flatly, God is man's supply. How do we tap into that?
Through faith in the spoken word. That's the key that unlocks the supply. She quotes Isaiah. My word shall not return unto me void, but shall accomplish that whereunto it is sent. Our faith-filled words have power to manifest.
You mentioned a story about a woman facing a lawsuit that really illustrates this.
Yes, a powerful one. This woman owed $3,000, lawsuit looming, deadline passed, very stressful. Shinn gave her an affirmation for divine supply and, crucially, told her to act as if she already had the money.
Act as if. How did she do that?
Shinn actually suggested she order an expensive lunch she couldn't technically afford as a demonstration of faith in the supply coming. She did it, held the faith, even when nothing seemed to happen.
And then
The very next morning, a cousin she hadn't seen in years showed up completely unexpectedly and gave her exactly $3,000.
living from the end result.
Exactly. It impressed the subconscious with the reality of abundance, despite the outward appearance of lack.
She contrasts this with another story, a man who wanted debt relief, but keep planning for the worst.
Right. He asked for help, got an affirmation, but then spent his mental energy rehearsing what he'd say if the bill wasn't canceled. His focus was still on the negative possibility, so he neutralized the positive affirmation. You have to mentally prepare for the good outcome.
That makes sense. Your mental rehearsal needs to match your request. Shinn uses a biblical story too, the three kings needing water.
Yes, in the desert, facing drought. The prophet Elisha tells them, essentially, you won't see wind or rain, yet dig ditches for water. They had to prepare for the supply before there was any physical evidence of it.
Prepare for what you've asked for. How does that apply today?
Shinn gives the example of a woman looking for an apartment in crowded New York during a shortage. Everyone said it was impossible, but acting in faith, she went out and bought new blankets for the apartment she didn't have yet.
Demonstrating her belief.
And against all odds, she found the perfect apartment shortly after, chosen over many other applicants. Preparing for your good impresses the subconscious with expectancy.
It's about getting into the spiritual swing, as she says. But she also mentions it often gets darkest before the dawn. What does that mean?
Well, when you start affirming something new and positive, especially something that challenges a long-held negative belief, it can stir things up in the subconscious. Old fears, doubts, the army of the aliens, as she calls them, can rise to the surface to be cleared out.
So things might seem to get worse temporarily.
Sometimes, yes. It can feel like you're taking steps backward right before a big breakthrough. It's a sign the old patterns are being challenged and released. The key is not to panic.
Hold the vision. Keep affirming, even when doubt arises.
Exactly. Give thanks even in the midst of the apparent storm, knowing it's passing. Because ultimately, she says, we can only receive what we can see ourselves receiving. Our vision determines our reality.
And there's that amazing story about the businessman needing a huge loan very quickly.
Oh yeah, $50,000, deadline imminent, bank already said no once. A seemingly impossible situation. Shinn told him to stay calm, control himself, go back to the bank, while she did a treatment basically affirming divine harmony.
And despite everything going wrong, train delays, arriving late.
Despite all that, he walked in calmly, asked for the loan again, and the banker, without question, just approved it right there. It shows the power of maintaining inner poise under pressure, and maybe the power of one person holding that unwavering vision for another.
Truly incredible. Okay, let's dig deeper into this power of the word. If words are so creative, it implies we need to be really mindful of what we say.
Extremely mindful. Shinn says, someone who understands this law becomes very careful with their conversation. You realize you're literally creating laws for yourself with your habitual statements, even small things, like always saying, I always miss the bus, versus I always catch the bus.
You start to expect what you constantly affirm. How does this relate to things like superstitions, lucky charms, and whatnot?
Well, the power isn't really in the lucky rabbit's foot or whatever. It's in the belief and the words associated with it. Saying, this brings me luck, creates an expectancy in the subconscious.
So it's still the belief in the word, just projected onto an object.
Exactly. But she notes that as you grow spiritually, you rely less on external symbols and more on the inherent power within you, your connection to divine intelligence.
She tells a story about that, right? Businessmen and some monkeys.
Yes. Two guys who were initially very successful using affirmations, trusting in God. Then they got these little lucky monkey charms and started attributing their success to the monkeys instead.
And their luck changed.
Their fortunes dipped. Shinn pointed out they'd shifted their faith from the infinite source to these little idols. Once they got rid of the monkeys, asked for forgiveness for misplacing their faith, their success returned. It's about where you place your focus.
A good reminder to keep our focus on the true source. She also gives an example of fear, attracting the feared thing, the woman and the ladder.
This woman had an intense phobia of ladders. Her constant fear seemed to draw ladders into her experience unexpectedly. But when she finally decided to confront the fear, walk towards a ladder instead of away, the perceived threat just dissolved.
Our fear literally energizes the thing we fear. Fearlessness takes away its power.
Precisely. Our inner state dictates the outer experience. This leads her to contrast old-fashioned chats filled with negativity, complaining, gossiping about problems.
Which just reinforces lack and limitation.
Versus new-fashioned chats that focus on what we do want, on positive outcomes, on possibilities. She says we should really only use words to heal, bless, or prosper.
That's a high standard for conversation. This applies to how we speak about others, too.
Absolutely. Wishing bad luck on someone inevitably rebounds onto you. But genuinely wishing someone else success, blessing them, actually helps your success. It's all interconnected energy.
Shinn even suggests words and mental images can physically change our bodies. She links disease to mental states.
Yeah, she held a strong belief that physical ailments often have a mental or emotional root cause. To truly heal the body, you first have to heal the soul, meaning the subconscious mind. You have to flesh out the negative thought patterns and replace them with ideas of perfect health and wholeness.
So things like sickness and unhappiness are basically symptoms of inner discord, violations of the law of love.
That's her perspective. The fundamental law is love one another. When we harbor resentment, criticism, hatred, unforgiveness, that violates the law and creates disharmony that can manifest physically. The story of the actress with the skin disease is powerful here.
She was healed by working on her inner state.
Completely. She had intense hatred for a colleague who had wronged her. Through dedicated inner work, focusing on forgiveness and goodwill, working in the silence, as Shinn puts it, the disease vanished. Love or goodwill fulfilled the law and dissolved the negativity.
And she links specific emotions to specific ailments, like criticism.
She suggests links, yeah. Continual criticism might relate to rheumatism, for example. Jealousy, unforgiveness, fear could manifest as other issues, like growths. Her core idea: every disease is caused by a mind not at ease. Unforgiveness is a big one.
She tells a story about a woman thinking she ate a bad oyster.
Right. But the real issue wasn't the oyster. It was the fact she was mentally out of harmony. She admitted to quarreling with 19 people. The external issue reflected her internal turmoil. As the within, so the without.
So our real battles are internal. Our enemies are within ourselves, like negative personality traits.
Exactly. And the antidote is Christ's message. Peace on earth, goodwill towards man. Consciously sending goodwill, blessings, even to people you find difficult, is key. It robs them of the power to harm you, she says.
How does blessing someone do that?
It creates this kind of protective aura. It neutralizes the negativity within you that might resonate with their negativity. She gives the example of a man selling machinery who blessed his competitor. The competitor's machine malfunctioned, and he easily made the sale. Blessing created a positive field.
So goodwill protects us by dissolving our own inner negativity first.
When you eliminate the inner enemies, fear, resentment, criticism, you find you have no outer enemies. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper.
Okay, this leads perfectly into the law of non-resistance. It sounds counterintuitive. How can not resisting make you powerful?
Shinn compares it to water. Water seems yielding, non-resistant, yet it can wear away rock. It possesses immense power. Jesus said, "Resist not evil." Shinn interprets this to mean that evil isn't some ultimate power fighting against good. It's more like a false appearance, a distortion created by our own belief in two opposing powers, good and evil.
So by resisting evil, we actually give it reality. We engage with the illusion.
That's the idea. Resistance keeps you locked in the struggle. Shinn talks about soul sleep, the subconscious being hypnotized by collective negative beliefs about sin, sickness, lack, death. These beliefs then get projected outward as our reality because the subconscious just outpictures whatever it deeply feels or believes.
It just reflects our programming, whether that programming is good or bad. She even applies this to why children sometimes get sick.
Yes, she suggests children are very psychically sensitive. They pick up on the fears and anxieties of adults, especially parents, and because their subconscious is so receptive, they can easily manifest those fears physically, like the mother constantly expecting her child to get measles.
Which reminds me of that quote, "If you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else will run it for you."
Exactly. We need to be conscious guardians of our own minds. But the flip side is, if you center yourself in right thinking, in goodwill, you become sort of impervious to negative thought forms from others. You only attract good.
So non-resistance isn't weakness. It's a state of inner alignment that repels negativity. Resistance, she says, is hell.
Because it keeps you in torment. Fighting, struggling, anxious. Her recipe for mastering the game through non-resistance is pretty radical. Greet every event, even seemingly bad ones, by baptizing its success in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Naming it success. How does that work?
It's the law of transmutation. By refusing to label it negatively, by affirming its ultimate good, you shift its energy. There's the story of the woman bothered by a negative business acquaintance.
Instead of pushing him away,
She blessed him, and she affirmed, "Every man is a golden link in the chain of my good." She declared his presence was somehow for her prosperity. And guess what? She ended up receiving a large sum of money through him, and then he just naturally moved out of her life. Blessing transmuted the situation.
Blessing your enemy robs them of ammunition. Their negativity can be turned into a blessing for you.
Yes, and this applies to larger scales too, like nations. But it requires real spiritual understanding. It's not about being passive or letting people walk all over you.
Right. It's not being a doormat. It's an active inner stance.
Wise non-resistance actually prevents people from taking advantage because you're operating from a place of inner power and calm, not fear or reaction. Shinn shares the personal story about waiting for a phone call.
Oh, yeah. She got so anxious she messed things up.
Waiting impatiently, resisting other calls, getting worked up. Her anxiety and resistance actually led to her phone line getting disconnected. Only when she stopped resisting, blessed the situation as success, and affirmed she couldn't lose what was hers by divine right.
Did things resolve?
Instantly. The phone reconnected and both important calls came through. Her takeaway: one's ships come in over a calm sea. Resistance creates ripples, non-resistance calms the waters.
So resisting a situation keeps it stuck to you. Trying to run away makes it follow you.
Exactly. She says, agree with thine adversary quickly, which doesn't mean approve of bad behavior, but agree internally that the adverse situation itself is somehow good, part of a larger plan, and remain undisturbed by it. Then it loses its power over you and fades away. Affirm. None of these things move me.
The disturbance is always internal. If you don't react emotionally, the external situation loses its hook.
Precisely. The work is always on yourself. You don't change others, you change your reaction, your inner state. She even tells a funny story about a student who lied and was seemingly cured by having to live with someone who lied even more. Life mirrors us.
And dwelling on the past is a form of resistance too, isn't it?
A big one. It violates the law of living in the now. Behold, now is the accepted time. Looking back, like Lot's wife, keeps you stuck. Bless the past, bless the future, but live fully now.
Like the woman who had no money for Christmas presents.
Yeah, she was stuck comparing her current lack to last year's abundance. Shinn told her to live now, prepare now for the good she desired. So she went out and bought tinsel, seals, paper small, acts of preparation for gift-giving.
Acting as if she had gifts to give.
And that present moment faith, that expectancy, impressed her subconscious. Before Christmas, she received a gift of several $100s. Living fully in the now, preparing for your good, opens the door.
It's about being spiritually alert, ready to seize opportunities in the moment.
Shinn mentions her own practice, silently affirming, "Infinite Spirit, don't let me miss a trick." And often, she'd receive crucial information or guidance shortly after. Start the day with affirmations. Be open. She even mentions repeating, "Look with wonder at that which is before you," one morning, and receiving unexpected money.
The key is finding affirmations that really resonate, that feel convincing to you.
Yes, they have to click internally. She concludes by reaffirming our divine right to plenty and the vision of a golden age when we collectively break down these barriers of lack in our consciousness.
It's a powerful vision. Now let's unpack the law of karma and the law of forgiveness. Karma is the boomerang effect.
Pretty much. What you give out, thoughts, deeds, words, comes back. It's the law of cause and effect. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. She notes her friend experienced this almost instantly when she understood the principle. The more aware you are, the faster karma seems to operate.
Greater knowledge means greater responsibility. Ignoring the law brings consequences.
Right. It's not punishment from God. It's the natural consequence of actions, like touching a hot stove. God, Shinn says, sees us as inherently perfect, made in the divine image, holding dominion. It's our recognition of this that's lacking. We imagine failure or success first, then experience it.
So freedom comes through knowing the truth of these spiritual laws.
And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. But knowing isn't enough. You have to obey the law to gain authority over conditions, just like with electricity. You have to understand and respect the principles to use the power.
She warns against using this power selfishly with the story of the woman who coveted her neighbor's house.
Yes, a real cautionary tale. She used strong mental imaging, personal will, to get the house after the owner died. She got it, but the karmic consequences were severe. Her own husband died. The house became a burden. It highlights the absolute importance of asking for what is yours by divine right, not just what your personal will desires.
Ask for the right house, the right situation.
Exactly. Infinite intelligence, give me the right house. Desire is powerful, but it needs divine direction to avoid creating chaos. Ask aright is the crucial first step.
She also cautions against forcing our will on others, like the mother trying to stop her daughter's trip.
Trying to control through fear or force just attracts the feared outcome. The solution was for the mother to let go, trust infinite love and wisdom, affirm divine protection for the daughter, and the daughter then voluntarily decided not to go. Releasing control brought the desired result.
And then the very strange story of the counterfeit $20 bill.
Yes, a woman received a fake bill from the bank. Puzzled, she analyzed her recent actions and remembered sending some stage money to a friend as a joke. The law, Shinn says, doesn't understand jokes. It just reflects our actions.
Which leads directly to the law of forgiveness. How does that work?
Shinn presents it as Christianity's core message, a higher law that can actually transcend or neutralize karma. The Christ within each person, our divine self, is the Redeemer. It allows us to bypass the strict cause and effect loop.
So the woman with the fake bill used this.
Yes. Realizing her own part in it, she called on the law of forgiveness under grace and not under law. She fearlessly went back to the bank, explained the mistake, without mentioning her own prank, and they apologized and gave her a genuine bill. Forgiveness cleared the slate.
Knowing the law gives us the power to rub out our mistakes. But we still have to align internally, right? You can't force the external.
Correct. You have to be rich in consciousness to attract riches. You have to embody the state you desire, like the woman seeking prosperity treatment whose home was completely disordered.
Shinn told her order was essential.
Order is heaven's first law. She immediately went home and started organizing, putting things in order, and boom, she received a significant financial gift soon after. The outer action reflected an inner shift towards order and readiness for abundance.
Giving is also key, she says. Hoarding leads to loss.
There is that scattereth and yet increaseth. Giving creates flow. Holding on too tightly creates stagnation and loss. She tells the story of a man who intuitively spent almost all his savings on an expensive fur coat. But he had a strong feeling it was an investment in his feeling of abundance. A month later, he landed a $10,000 commission. The coat was, in a way, a catalyst. But ignoring intuitive nudges to give or spend often leads to losing the same amount in some unhappy way.
Like the woman who saved Thanksgiving money and then had it stolen.
Exactly. The law supports fearless but wise spending and giving. Another woman bought her nephew a toy she thought she couldn't afford, acting on a generous impulse, and then found the exact amount of money in the street.
So trust the supply, act in faith, and the means will appear.
Yes, but the faith must come first. According to your faith, be it unto you. Faith holds the vision steady, dissolves the negative pictures, and allows the law of grace or forgiveness to operate, letting us reap where maybe we haven't perfectly sown according to strict karma.
This brings us to casting the burden. Shinn calls this an easy and quick way to impress the subconscious. How does it work?
It's about consciously handing over your problems, your anxieties, your burdens to your higher self, the superconscious mind, the Christ within. Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light," suggesting we can operate above the level of worldly stress and struggle.
Psalm 55, cast thy burden upon the Lord. So carrying the burden ourselves is actually violating a spiritual law.
That's how Shinn sees it. Why struggle with the limited, doubt-filled conscious mind to fix things when you can give the problem to the all-powerful, all-knowing superconscious mind, which knows the perfect solution?
It's like delegating upwards. How do you do it practically?
With a simple, strong statement of release. Shinn gives examples. A woman needing money declared, "I cast this burden of lack on the Christ within, and I go free to have plenty," and she experienced an avalanche of supply.
What about other types of burdens?
Same principle. Another woman got a new piano but had no space. She affirmed, "I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free." A friend then unexpectedly asked to rent her old piano, creating the needed space. Someone burdened by resentment used a similar affirmation and found peace.
And you just repeat the statement.
Yes, repeat it frequently, silently, or aloud, with quiet determination, like winding up a toy, she says. It impresses the subconscious through repetition and faith.
And this process helps gain clarity.
Absolutely. When you're caught up in worry and fear, the carnal mind, your vision is clouded. Casting the burden lifts the fog, brings relief, allows clear intuition to come through, and eventually manifests the good outcome: health, happiness, supply, whatever is needed.
But we still might hit that darkness before the dawn phase.
Yes. Casting the burden can still stir up old subconscious doubts as they come up to be released. That's when you double down on faith. Clap the cymbals, she says. Give thanks for your deliverance even while things still look messy. Active faith is key.
Faith without works needs action.
Faith without works is dead. You need to act on your faith. Like Jesus telling the crowd to sit down before the loaves and fishes appeared. It was an act of faith, preparing for the miracle.
Or the woman separated from her husband.
Incredible story. She refused to accept the separation mentally, affirming there is no separation in divine mind, and her active faith. She set a place for him at the dinner table every single day for over a year.
Wow, that's commitment. And he returned.
He returned. Her persistent, active faith impressed the subconscious and manifested the reunion.
Shinn also mentions music and making believe.
Yes, music can uplift the soul and make wonderful things seem possible, impressing the subconscious. And making believe, like children do, taps into that imaginative power. Jesus said we must become like little children to enter the kingdom.
She tells a story about a poor woman who did this naturally.
A woman living in poverty but always focusing on beauty, imagining herself surrounded by lovely things, living in a world of the wondrous, never envious. Eventually, she married a wealthy man and lived the opulent life she had consistently imaged.
It all comes back to erasing fear, doesn't it?
That's the ultimate goal for peace and happiness. Fear is just misdirected energy, misdirected faith. It needs to be transmuted. Jesus asked, "Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith?"
So how do you get rid of fear? What's the practical step?
Shinn's answer is blunt. By walking up to the thing you are afraid of, confront it. Fear gets its power from your fear. Face the lion and its fierceness diminishes.
Face the line of lack by spending fearlessly.
Exactly. Many of our students broke poverty consciousness by losing the fear of letting money go, trusting that God is the infinite source, both giver and gift. Affirming, "I now thank God the giver for God the gift." Sometimes, she notes, deeply ingrained fears need a kind of dynamite situation to shake them loose. Fearlessness is the dynamite.
So constant vigilance, is this action coming from fear or faith?
Choose ye this day whom we shall serve, fear or faith. Confront people you fear cheerfully. Become fearless about germs by knowing they have no power in divine mind. Release comes, sometimes in the twinkling of an eye, when you truly realize evil has no inherent power. Then the illusions fade.
Okay, let's talk about love. Shinn calls it the great initiation.
Love one another. She even quotes Ouspensky, calling love a cosmic phenomenon that opens the door to a higher dimension, the world of the wondrous.
What does she mean by real love?
It's selfless, fearless. It gives without demanding return. Its joy is in the giving. It's God in manifestation, the strongest magnet, attracting its own without needing to chase or cling.
And the opposite, selfish, fearful, controlling love leads to losing what you cling to.
Yes. Jealousy, especially, is described as the worst enemy of love, breeding negative imaginings that can manifest, if not neutralized.
She shares a story about a woman whose lover left her, and her advice was quite direct.
Very direct. Shinn told her flat out that her intense, pained feelings weren't love. They were closer to hatred, resentment, possessiveness. And you only receive what you give. She had to learn to give perfect, unselfish love, blessing him, demanding nothing. Only then could real love return, either from him or his equivalent.
So the woman had to change her inner state completely.
She had to work on herself. Shinn explained that his perceived cruelty would stop when she was no longer disturbed by it because her own emotional turmoil was attracting it.
This connects to the story of the Indian Brotherhood.
Yes, who saw only the divinity in everyone and everything, even wild animals, and were therefore never harmed. They projected only love and saw only God. Shinn advised the woman to salute the divinity in her former lover.
And as the woman worked on letting go of resentment,
Gradually, the pain lessened. One day, she spontaneously thought, God bless him wherever he is. Shinn recognized that as the turning point, the sign of real, selfless love emerging. She predicted the man's love, or its equivalent, would return when the woman was whole and undisturbed.
and did it.
The miracle happened. She woke up one day completely free of suffering. She saw him that evening, he proposed. They married quickly, and he became devoted. Her inner shift created the outer change.
Shinn's quote comes to mind. No man is your enemy. Every man is your teacher. He was teaching her selfless love.
Exactly. Suffering isn't necessary, she says, but it often comes when we violate spiritual law, like the law of love. Lack of appreciation is another violation that can lead to loss.
Like the woman who was indifferent to her husband and lost him. Or criticizing a spouse.
Our attitudes deeply affect those around us. Conversely, positive belief can uplift someone. Remember the dejected man whose wife, using numerology, told him he'd never succeed.
Shinn affirmed his divine potential instead.
Yes. She strongly affirmed his perfection, success, prosperity, and divine mind, demanding it manifest. He soon got a good position and later became a successful writer. Our words about others have power.
And love for one's work is vital, and our attitude towards money.
Absolutely. Contempt for money pushes it away. Money is seen as God in manifestation, expressing abundance, freedom from want. It needs to circulate, be used wisely. Hoarding, like in the movie Greed, brings negative consequences.
Like the woman hoarding necklaces whose arms became paralyzed.
A stark illustration of holding on too tightly. Love leads to abundance. Selfishness and greed lead to loss. All disease and unhappiness trace back to violating the law of love. Healing requires returning to love, clearing resentment.
Even in business.
Especially in business, goodwill is essential. A woman sent love to a critical employer and experienced kindness in return, neutralized past hurts with present kindness, let go of sorrow and regret. They harm the body.
She even warns against mother fear.
Yes, projecting fear onto children can attract harm. Better to affirm divine protection, like the woman whose brother was saved from a mine explosion after she strongly affirmed his safety. Perfect love casteth out fear. Love fulfills the law.
Moving on to intuition or guidance. Following intuition is crucial for navigating this game.
Absolutely. Shinn says with the power of the word and following intuitive leads, anything is possible. But you have to choose the right words for affirmations. Ask clearly.
God is the supply, the word releases it, but you need the guidance on how to act.
Right. Ask and ye shall receive, but then you need to listen for the lead. Speak the word, then be alert for guidance intuition. A remark someone makes, something you read.
Like the woman who needed money and was guided to give some away.
Yes. She wanted money, asked for guidance, and got the strong intuitive hit to give $100, which seemed like a lot to her then, to a friend. It felt counterintuitive, but she followed it. That act of giving proved to be a great investment, opening the way for more to come to her. Giving opens receiving. Tithing is mentioned here too.
Giving cheerfully, blessing the money going out. Our vision limits our supply, but vision needs action.
Like the man buying the coat. And asking specifically for the right thing is key. A woman just asked for a position. Shinn advised asking for the right position. She got 3 offers and followed her intuition, a feeling, a smell of Palm Beach, to choose the best one.
Intuition isn't always logical, is it?
Rarely. It's a spiritual faculty, bypassing reason. It just points the way. Shinn felt an urge to go to a specific bakery, argued with herself about it, went anyway, and met someone there who desperately needed her help. The intuition knew.
Leads can even come during a treatment or affirmation session.
Yes, and might seem unrelated. A woman being treated for health got the hunch to get her furniture out of storage and find an apartment. Doing so actually improved her health because, again, the mental correspondence, her outer life, reflected her inner state, which impacted her body.
It all connects back. Sin leads to sickness. Sin no more for healing. Find the mental cause.
The metaphysician looks for the correspondence. Restore the soul, heal the body, and avoid condemnation. Condemn not.
Why is condemnation so bad?
Because what you condemn, you tend to attract or experience yourself. The friend condemning her husband's affair partner later got involved with a married man. Criticizing others is like grabbing a live wire. It shocks you back.
What about indecision? That can block guidance.
Big stumbling block. Affirm. I am always under direct inspiration. I make right decisions quickly. But Shinn warns against relying on psychic predictions, horoscopes, numerology.
Why is that?
They operate on the mental plane, often outlining the karmic path, the path of cause and effect based on past actions or birth charts. But spiritual law, the law of grace, can transcend karma. She mentions a man whose horoscope predicted death, but he lived and led a major spiritual movement.
So don't accept negative prophecies.
Neutralize them. Every false prophecy shall come to naught. Expect and claim only good prophecies. Use your will to align with God's will. I will that the will of God be done. This directs your power correctly. The prodigal son's return was an act of will, leaving negative thinking. Faith is also an act of will.
External disharmony always points inward. Be ready for unexpected pathways to your good.
Yes. Things might look wrong, but turn out right. The woman who denied the loss of $2,000 loaned to a relative ended up receiving exactly that amount through a completely unforeseen chain of events involving her apartment building. The universe has surprising ways.
Infinite intelligence can restore the years the locusts have eaten, the years wasted by negative thinking.
Exactly. We are here to prove God's abundance and justice, even in the face of lack and injustice.
Let's talk about perfect self-expression, or the divine design. This sounds like finding your true purpose.
It is. Shinn believed everyone has a unique place, a destiny designed by divine mind. It's already there, perfect, waiting for us to recognize it.
But you have to see the idea first. Use that imaging faculty.
Yes. You need to catch the vision before it can manifest. The highest demand we can make, she suggests, is for our divine design to be revealed.
What's the affirmation for that?
Something like, Infinite Spirit, open the way for the divine design of my life to manifest. Let the genius within me now be released. Let me see clearly the perfect plan.
And this plan includes everything.
Health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. Demanding this can trigger big changes, she warns, because many people have strayed far from their true path. Things might seem chaotic for a bit as life rearranges itself.
But when you find that perfect expression, it feels effortless.
Like play, because you're doing what you were designed to do, what you love, and the supply needed for it will manifest because, as she puts it, we come into the world financed by God for our purpose.
You mentioned an inspiring story about a man starting with almost nothing.
Yes, a man with only 7 cents. He gave 1 cent to Shinn as a sign of faith, asking her to affirm his perfect self-expression and prosperity. Very quickly, he got a job offer in another city, acted on it, and found health, happiness, and supply flowed to him.
It's not always about a big career, though.
No, perfect self-expression could be being a perfect wife, mother, homemaker, whatever, brings fulfillment and utilizes your unique gifts in alignment with divine love. The key is to ask for definite leads. Listen to intuition. Don't force a specific mental picture. Inspiration reveals the path.
And what you seek is also seeking you.
Like the telephone seeking Bell. Trust that the idea and the means are trying to connect with you. Don't force careers on children. Affirm their divine design from early on. It all comes back to God's will be done, not man's. The Bible, she says, is fundamentally about freeing the mind from limiting mortal thoughts.
Don't be the servant who buries their talent. There's a cost to not using our gifts.
Yes, fear is often the block stage fright, fear of failure, but this can be overcome with affirmations or treatment, allowing infinite intelligence to flow through you.
Like the boy who aced his math exam after affirming he knew everything.
He affirmed, I am one with infinite intelligence. I know everything I should know on this subject. He aced arithmetic, where he affirmed, but not history, where he relied on his conscious mind. Trust the Father within.
It requires constant practice, staying connected.
Practicing the presence of God every minute. A student had a miraculous trip abroad, constantly asking for guidance, but struggled upon returning home when she relied on her own reasoning again. Seemingly small things can be turning points.
Avoid resistance. Don't dictate the how.
My way, not your way, is the command of infinite intelligence. Be the non-resistant channel. Stand still internally and let God work. Poise is crucial.
Poise is power.
Yes. When you're poised, calm, centered, God power can work through you. You think clearly, make right decisions. Anger disrupts this blur's vision, poisons the blood, leads to failure. Sin, in this context, is anything not done in faith, including fear and worry.
Confront fear. Believe in completion.
Face it down. Jehoshaphat's army praised God and their enemies destroyed each other. Affirm completion. In divine mind, there is only completion. Actively prepare, like the student finishing an old sewing project, symbolizing completion, which led to unexpected money.
Ask for guidance if you have multiple talents. Be fearless and be a good receiver.
Yes. Refusing gifts out of pride blocks your channels. Accept gracefully. It's all from God. Balance giving and receiving. Understanding reincarnation helps explain differing starting points in life. We carry subconscious patterns from past lives, but ultimately, we're here to fulfill our destiny now.
Finally, denials and affirmations. We have the power to decree.
Thou shalt also decree a thing. Decreeing releases the reality that already exists in divine mind, but decree only the divine idea, the perfect pattern.
Word your demands carefully. Ask for the divine selection.
Yes, the right home, friend, job, and always add, under grace in a perfect way. This prevents manifestation through harsh or undesirable means. Like the woman who demanded $1,000 and got it through her daughter's accident, she forgot the under grace part.
As consciousness expands, ask for bigger things. Always under grace.
Enlarge your expectancy. We only receive what we believe is possible. A student asked for $600, got it, but Shinn felt he could have received $1,000 if he hadn't limited his request. Think like the French legend, everyone has a gold nugget of abundance consciousness within.
Start at the end, declare you've already received.
Before you call, I shall answer. Continual affirming builds belief. Give thanks for having received, don't just plead. Rejoice even in the desert of current lack. That opens the way. The Lord's Prayer is full of command, demand, praise, thanksgiving. Believe with God all things are possible.
Use bridges of active faith, like the paper cutter.
Right. A woman needed money, felt drawn to buy a fancy paper cutter, thinking, I need something good enough to open letters with large checks. That seemingly silly purchase became her active link, her bridge, and the money manifested. Thought creates supply, like the man thinking of oxygen breaking the bookcase, not the window.
Never waver once you start. Haven't done all stand.
Hold the vision. Demonstrations often come at the 11th hour, just when you let go of anxious reasoning and allow infinite intelligence to work its magic. Impatient desires, wrong demands like wanting rid of glasses instead of perfect sight, depreciation, fear of loss, these all hinder.
Cast the burden when stuck. Like the umbrella story.
Huh. Yes. Umbrella blew inside out. Woman desperately said, "Oh God, you take charge," and immediately saw an umbrella mender. Letting go allows this solution. Always follow denials, clearing the negative, with affirmations, building the positive. Visualize mentally, but vision spiritually, receive intuitive flashes.
Desire only God's will. Let false desires fade. Trust the master architect.
God's plan is always the square of life. Don't force things. Act only on intuition. Rest in the Lord. Sometimes astonishing things happen, like the student finding a brand new $100 bill in her safe deposit box, maybe even materialization. Man's word will eventually be made flesh.
The name Jesus Christ holds immense power.
Representing truth made manifest, asking in his name elevates you to the fourth dimension, free from limitation, unconditioned and absolute. Christ is the principle, the Redeemer within. God the Father, universal, works through the Son, Christ in man via the Holy Ghost, God in action.
So make thinking an art. Paint divine designs with faith.
That's the goal. All power is given to heaven to earth through right thinking. The rules are simple: fearless faith, non-resistance, and love. That's how you win the game of life. May you find freedom, fulfill your destiny, manifest your divine design, health, wealth, love, perfect self-expression. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Wow. That was quite the journey through the game of life. We've covered so much: the sheer power of our thoughts, our words, our imagination.
And the absolute necessity of faith over fear. The laws of giving, receiving, non-resistance, forgiveness. It's a complete system for living, really.
And aligning with that divine design, that unique purpose each of us has. It really offers a different way to look at challenges and possibilities.
Definitely. Shinn provides this framework for seeing how our inner reality is constantly creating our outer world. It puts the power and the responsibility firmly back in our hands.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment to think about how these ideas land for you. Where do they resonate in your own life?
Yeah, start paying closer attention. What are the dominant thoughts you're having? What words are you using habitually? Are they building the life you want?
Identify those limiting beliefs, the "I can't" or "it's too hard," and try consciously replacing them with affirmations. Speak them with feeling, with conviction.
Cultivate that fearless faith. When fear pops up, acknowledge it, but then consciously choose to focus on the desired outcome. Practice casting the butt and handing it over.
And listen, really listen to that inner voice, that intuition. It might guide you in unexpected ways. Start asking, what might my divine design look like? And affirm its unfolding.
Remember, it's not just about thinking about these things. It's about putting them into practice, day by day, moment by moment.
So here's a final thought to take with you. How might consciously choosing to play this game of life, using these principles, shift how you see your current situation? How might it open up new possibilities for your future? And maybe ask yourself, what's just one small game, one thought pattern, one reaction, one way of speaking that I can choose to play differently starting today? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.